Thanks for tuning into Border City Rock Talk, where you get great news, great interviews, great interviewees with sometimes a comedic touch. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like button. Oh, and make sure you do hit that like button, because apparently that algorithm will go on and on and on. It'll bring more people into putting this thumbnail in front of other people to watch this great interview. Today I've got autograph legend Steve Lynch. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Ernest.
Anytime, anytime. So we're here to talk about Confessions of a Rock Guitarist by Steve Lynch.
Yes.
When does that drop?
Actually, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. People can pre-order it now if you just put in, if you just go to Amazon and put in Confessions of a Rock Guitarist, it'll come right up, or my name. And but so you can pre-order it now, but like I said, it's available, to purchase straight out tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so, yeah, it's good to go. There's a lot of work, and here I am. The day has finally come where it's coming out,
Yeah, you were talking to me about this book for a while now. So how
Yeah.
long did it take you to write the book? And I mean, how does that process go? Because I mean, a lot of people have books out there. For me,
Yeah.
I can talk a book, but for me to sit down and even though I can type pretty quick, it would be exhausting mentally to do that. So how do you do that? Do you do audio and then you have somebody transcribe, or how does the process work, Steve?
Well, what I did with this was the way I got prompted to actually write a book was I would always tell stories about all these interesting things that happened to me, whether it be, professionally, like backstage stories and stuff like that, or just these weird, bizarre occurrences, and different timing issues, with that I've gone through my whole life. And so whenever I told these stories, people kept on saying to me for years and years, they said, "You got to write a book on this stuff. It's just fascinating." And so what I did was I started writing down, oh God, maybe 15 years ago, I started writing down single sentences that would remind me of a particular story because there were so
Right.
many of them.
Yeah.
Before I knew it, I had like 200 sentences written down. And I
Oh,
knew I'd never be able to fit all of those stories into one book, but
yeah.
so I took the most interesting one, and as I kept on, I was so busy that I had to keep on delaying, sitting down and actually writing it. But when COVID hit, right then is I thought, okay, well I can't go out and play, I I can't teach. So I'm pretty much confined to home. This would be the
Yeah.
time to start doing it. So that March of 2020, it was, I started writing it. And by the time COVID ended 2 years later, I had the whole thing written. Now, but then again, it kept on getting pushed back as far as this release and all that. I signed to a publishing company right away as soon as it was completed. They loved it. The first one I sent it to, they absolutely loved it. And so, but the thing was that they were pushed back on time because of the fact that they had other books that they were waiting to
Yeah.
put out there to release, and so I understood that. Of course, it was like that with everybody. It took a while to get
Yeah.
things going, and so, but I'm kind of glad it did because then all these other things happened, like reconnecting with my this this lady that I met back in 1984 on the Van Halen tour. I reconnected with her. We and then the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just all these different things kept on happening, and so I'm glad I was able to add in all these stories, and then there was the whole autograph lawsuit thing that
Mm.
happened. So I wrote that into the book as well,
Oh, okay.
and so there's just all these different things that happened, after the fact, after I'd already handed in the book. So
Right.
I updated the manuscript and put in these other stories, and they absolutely loved it. So it kind of made it that it had more of a great ending because of the fact that I met my now fiance and we reconnected again. And then, the Hall of Fame thing and everything, and the lawsuit and all that. So I'm glad it got delayed because then I was able to add all these other things into it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that was the time, in 2022 when I signed with the publishing company. That's when Randy Graham passed away as well.
Right.
So there
Right.
was just all these different things happening. And I'm so glad I was able to put that story in there, too, because that was such an important part of my life, Randy was. And
Yeah.
so, and then we were talking a little bit earlier about, the whole thing about, how a publishing company can take your material and they can edit it the way that they want, or they
Yeah.
can, and that's what my agent said to me when we were looking at Simon and Schuster in Kensington, was the
Mhm.
fact that, well, they're going to probably edit this the way that they want. And I'm going, no, they can't. This is my life told in
Yeah.
chronological format. You can't edit that. And the
Yeah.
way I'm saying it is the way that I speak. So they
Right.
can't edit that. I'm writing exactly the way that I tell the stories and everything. And she said, well, they might change the title of the book. And I said, no, no,
Right.
and they can choose which cover to use. And so I thought, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So she says, well, I got this publishing company called Indigo River,
Yeah.
publishing and they're just a great, great company. And they're a hybrid. So basically, I have to do all the work. I mean, really
Okay.
all of it, including even up to tomorrow morning is the press release for it. I had to help write that whole thing. So,
Wow.
just all of it, putting together the forward of the book and all the editing and everything. They give some of the editors that they gave me to converse with, they gave me some ideas, but I really didn't use any of it because it changed the story. It changed the narrative from me telling it to somebody else's.
Or the
And
tone.
I could see, yeah. And so I wanted to tell my story the way I wanted to tell it. And so, I had control over that. And then I had control over the design of the cover and everything. And
Right.
I chose a cover that, actually, I have the book right here. I can show it. Okay,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
grab it
For
real
sure.
quick. Yeah.
We'd love to see it. Well, that's
Okay,
a
so
thick book.
yeah, so I'm
Yeah,
trying
it
to get
looks great.
the
I
glare
can
off
see
of
it.
it, but
Perfect.
it's
Yeah.
as you can see, it's a West Tone guitar that I'm playing, and it was for a photo shoot before I went out and I did all these clinics. I did 325 clinics in 20 different countries, and so I wanted
Wow.
that picture because that was like the promo shot for those clinics that I taught, and so I'm sitting on my black
I was
Mercedes,
just gonna
right?
say, do you still have that car?
No, it was
I
in
was gonna say, because that license
1979.
plate will give you away
Yeah,
in public.
yeah. And so I had guitars on the license plate too, and so that's
Yeah,
what I
that's
drove
cool.
around all in LA the whole time I was there. I mean,
Yeah.
for a good portion of the time I was there. And so anyway, I thought that's the perfect shot because you've
It
got
is.
the marquee, lights on behind you and everything,
Yeah.
and then you've got me sitting on the car, the black Mercedes with the license plate that says guitars, and I'm all in
Yeah.
black and everything. And I thought I'm going to use this photo, and the publishing company absolutely loved it. They said that you can't get any better than that.
No,
So
I mean, that's a
yeah,
great, how do you say, just great intuition, because that looks great.
yeah.
Um,
I think it's going to do very well. Everybody's complimenting me on the cover, so because I've already shown it on social media on my
yeah.
Instagram, which is Steve Lynch official, and my my personal Facebook one, which is Steve Lynch. You type in Steve Lynch and then put in guitar. My mug usually shows up very quickly, and then
Yeah, yeah.
also the one where it's the autograph site, the autograph band and autograph
Okay.
OG's site. So, it tells about it a little bit in there, but like tomorrow, I'm going to be posting the whole press release on it as well.
Right
So,
on. So how many of those 200 stories or information bits, I don't know if you'd say that, but do you think you got in the book? And can you tell us like we don't want to give the book away. We want people to go out and buy it. Get
yeah,
everything for free these
well,
days.
I would say probably about 50 of them, but to,
Wow.
to fit all of them in,
Well, no, that's a pretty
I mean,
thick book as
sometimes
it
I
is.
combined one story with the next because it came
Okay.
right after, or it even happened during one
Hmm.
story. And so I kind of split the two into one paragraph. And so, uh, but yeah, it starts off with basically, from my childhood, what I went through then, heroin addiction at a very young age. When I was 15, I got off of that. It was only lasted 4 months, thankfully.
I
And
didn't realize that. Wow.
yeah, and
Is
that's
that
why.
when you were living in a tent?
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
That's
Tell us a little bit about that. That wasn't in
well,
your parents' backyard,
what
was it?
happened? What's that now?
That wasn't in your parents' backyard, was it? The tent?
No, 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 no. It's actually, I was the eighth grade, and I hadn't gone to school, and so they were going to hold me back in the eighth grade. I was always going over to my friend's place and smoking pot and playing guitar all day. That's
Yeah.
why this is confessions, because I'm actually telling everything.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff in here I've never talked about before,
Wow.
and so anyway, my dad, I told my dad, it was when Hendrix died, September 18th, 1970. I told my dad, I'm not going back to school. I'm just going to play guitar. This is what I'm going to do. And so he
Mhm.
was disappointed, but he said, well, if you're not going to go to school, you can't live here, And I said, that's fine. I said, can I borrow the old tent that we used to use for camping? He said, you can have that old tent, we haven't used it for years anyway. So
Wow.
I took that and I set it up in a field next to a friend of mine's house, and I ran electricity out with an extension cord. And so I had electricity for the heater, the little small space heater, and then my amplifier and a lamp, and then I could play guitar in there, and I had a cot,
Yeah.
and I sleep on.
Yeah.
And so it was great. I loved it. I could play guitar as much as I wanted. I didn't have to go to school. Unfortunately, that year it snowed a lot, so I had to set my alarm for every couple hours to shovel the snow off. Otherwise, the tent would start to
Where in
cave in.
California were you living? It must have been
Oh no,
quite
no,
north.
I was in California. That was
Oh,
still in Seattle.
oh, okay, in
Yeah,
Washington
this
State.
was
Okay.
1970. So that's
Yeah.
in Seattle's where I'm from. That's where I lived, until
Okay.
I was 23 when I moved to LA, and that was 1978. So this was
Okay.
1970. I was 15 years old
Okay.
in 1970. So that's when I moved into the tent and did all that.
Wow.
But then I moved to LA,
Yeah.
years later in 1978 to go to the Guitar Institute of Technology. And that decision changed my whole life, and it changed my whole career right there. I was
Yeah.
playing professionally since 1973 in
Yeah.
Seattle-based bands.
Right.
So, but it was more like top 40 stuff, but we were
Yeah.
busy all the time. We were always on the road, so
Yeah.
that was what paid my income. That was my income there.
So we don't want to talk too much about the heroin addiction, but I mean that's going to get people to
Yeah.
buy the book. I know that because I had no idea. Is that something that nobody's
Nobody
really known
does.
about?
My family doesn't even know about it.
They're
So
going to know now.
yeah. So they're gonna know
Wow.
now. That's right. Yeah.
Wow. So I'm not even
Uh,
going to ask any questions on that because we want people to go out and check out the
yeah.
book and not get all this freebie stuff. So when's the big day? When are you tying the knot?
Oh, well, we're looking at it. See, right now she has her place in New Jersey. And in fact, we're leaving to go up there for the summer on Wednesday. And then I
Okay.
have my place here in
All
Florida,
right.
just in Tampa, Florida. But we're looking at buying over in Boca Raton, Delray Beach area. So we're already looking at properties over there.
Yeah.
So we're going to be flying down to look at different properties while we're up in the New Jersey shore. She lives right by Atlantic City up there. And
Okay.
so we're going to be flying down to look at properties, and then we're going to buy something down there. And that's after we live together, we're pretty much together all the time now because
Well, I see in
she,
social media she's always there with you. It's
yeah,
like
yeah, right, exactly.
she makes
Because
you look pretty and you make her look pretty.
yeah, exactly. She makes me look a lot better than I look, believe me. But this way, instead of but what we were doing was she was coming down here to stay. She's here now, and then there's also during the summertime I'd go up there and stay. So we were going back and forth, but we were together.
Yeah.
So now we're going to actually get a place together, and that's going to be our permanent one.
Right.
And then
Awesome.
we'll tie the knot when that happens. But we didn't want to get married until we were actually living together. That didn't
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your dad wouldn't have agreed with that either.
No,
Just
he
saying.
wouldn't have.
Back
It
in
would
the
have been
day.
Yeah,
things are
shotgun time.
shotgun wedding. Well, I mean, you could still do that because she lives near Atlantic City. But so everybody
Yeah,
go get the book. It's going to be you're going to have a press release tomorrow.
tomorrow at
Um,
9 o'clock.
yes,
But like I said, you can buy it right now. I mean, it'll
yeah,
be shipped to you. You know, just go to Amazon.com and type in "Confessions of a Rock Guitarist." You know, it'll
yeah.
pop right up. You know, so
I'll put a bunch of links below. Are
oh
you doing
great, yeah.
you doing anything musically these days? Besides, I'm sure you're still teaching and you're playing, but are you
No,
doing
I'm
any?
actually I'm not doing any teaching. I retired from that,
Okay.
and yeah, and so what I haven't been doing is going out and playing live because of my carpal tunnel issues, and
Oh, okay.
my hands get it really bothers them a lot. I've
Yeah.
had two operations on each hand where
Okay.
it's carpal tunnel issues, and I had to
Oh,
stop
yeah.
playing for a while, and
Yeah.
that's been bothering me since 1978 when I went to the Guitar Institute of
Oh, wow.
Technology. It really started to affect me then because I was playing, 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was way too much. And I really damaged my hands, the cartilage and everything. And
Yeah.
so it was a real struggle for me to continue to play after that early time. By 1979, my hands were going, "You sure you want to do this?" And then I had different episodes, when Autograph was touring and everything, where it became very painful, and but I had to keep doing it, for the love of it. I wasn't going to give it up, and
Yeah.
so even when the hand specialist that did the operations, he said, "You're going to have to lay off of this," and I said, I can't, and
Yeah.
and I broke a wrist, and then they had to reset it in traction because it didn't heal correctly, so that. I was teaching at the time, and moved back to Seattle, and I was teaching then, but I had to learn how to write with my left hand,
Is that right?
all the different
Or is
chart
that
sounds.
left?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So what happened was I learned to do that, but then it took me a year to get my hand back in shape. But I thought, I'm just gonna keep doing it. I'm just gonna keep practicing, and I did. And then about 5 years ago, it was acting up really bad
Okay.
when
Yeah.
I was playing out live again,
Yeah.
and my doctor says there was a different hand specialist down here in Florida, and he said, "Look, if you don't lay off, especially when you're playing live, you're standing up and your hands are at a weird angle and everything." He
Yeah.
says you're going to lose mobility. He said it may be difficult for you to even hold a coffee cup, and that shocked the hell out of me. And
Yeah.
so I told the guys, "Look, I got to take a hiatus here because this is doctor's orders,
Yeah.
So I did.
So
And
you're
so what I plan on doing now is recording. Once we get moved into the place, which will be September, October. Not
Mhm.
that far away.
Right.
Then I'm going to have a room set up there that's just going to be, for my studio, and then I'm going to start recording the night. I've done so much writing during this time, but I haven't been able to like sit down and do any recording because I've
Yeah.
been so busy with all this other stuff,
Yeah.
and so that's what I want to do is put out some songs, and I do want to go out and play live again, but it may be with a new version of Autograph, or it may be a solo thing, depending on which direction I want to take at that time,
Yeah. The circumstances at the
Yeah,
time.
right, exactly. I mean, Autographs, gone on for, like 40 years, and so
Yeah.
I might want to do something else. I did record a solo album called
Yeah.
Network
Yeah.
23. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm going to re-release that. And we're working on a deal with Sony right now, who own the three RCA albums. They bought them off from RCA. And so that was actually 28 years ago. And so now their time has ran out for their ownership. And we're getting them back. And so we're negotiating with them right now.
Right.
And they'll be available. Right now, those songs are not available on Spotify
Yeah.
for streaming. And so we're going to do that. We're going to get that all set up with them, and it'll probably be under Sony Records still, but I'll have possession. I'll own the masters,
Yeah.
instead of them owning them. And I now own the name, trademark, and logo. The singer, the only one that's still alive is Steve Plunkett, the singer, but he
Yeah.
didn't want to be involved with it. He's like really involved with this church and everything out in
He's
Palm
low
Desert,
key.
California. Pardon me?
He's low key.
Yeah, very low key. He just wants to be under the radar, and
Yeah.
and he was doing really well doing sound writing soundtracks for, or songs for
That's right.
movies and television. He did
Yeah.
the what was it called, Seventh Heaven. He did the theme song for that and sang on it,
Yeah.
and so he was busy doing all that kind of stuff, which is, when you're writing for those kind of things, it's actually a lot more money than getting in a band and going out and playing.
Didn't he write for Hollywood or Beverly Hills 90210?
Yes, he did. He was doing that as
So
well.
I think I did
Yeah.
interview him. I've interviewed so many. I think I did get an
Yeah,
interview.
you probably did interview him. Absolutely. Yeah, but he was doing all that. And so he could do that, all that, just in the studio down the street from his house. And so he
Yeah.
was writing with all these different people and everything. And I thought,
Yeah.
good for him. That's a great living. You get all these residuals coming in from that, from all these
Yeah.
different things, and
Yeah.
they keep coming in for as long as any of the shows or anything is airing.
Yeah.
You still get a check, so, which is just the same as me now. I mean, we've got, for instance, Triple Radios and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So it's
Yeah.
in the video games and Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
These things, those royalties never quite go away.
Unless you let them buy you out. Exactly.
Right, unless you sell your publishing rights.
Yeah.
And that's, I didn't sell anything. I own all the rights to all my material. So
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it that way. Because once you get a lump sum up front and then you go through that, then you go, okay, now what do I do? You know what I mean? So
unless you're Bieber, I think Justin Bieber sold
yeah,
his, and there's something about it, $200 million, and he's in the
yeah,
poorhouse. I'm like, what? I mean, it's just
yeah. Well, it's that lifestyle. I mean, a
I was
lot of
going to
people
say
don't
that.
know
Yeah.
this, and I talk about it in my book as well, because it's kind of an educational book. Also because of the fact that I talk about a lot of these things. A lot of these bands, as you well know, or they're out there playing because they have to. They don't
Yeah.
have money. You think, oh, they're rock stars. They have limousines and all this. No, 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 no. When we went out with Aerosmith in '85, they had to get out and play. They were in dire straits financially and everything. And then
Because
same
they
thing with,
burned through the money, you're saying?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they still had homes and stuff, but they were looking at, we got to get to work,
They
because
got to pay for
you
the
look at
homes.
it like this. You look at it like, okay, you're not selling albums anymore. Usually you stop selling albums about a year after they come out, and then the sales go way down.
Yeah.
I mean, way down. And
Yeah.
then you make money off touring and merchandising, and selling merchandising, on tour. But the radio play starts to go down, so you're not making those big
Yeah.
bucks of when your songs first got radio play, and
Yeah.
all of that starts dissipating, very much so. 2 or 3 years after the release, and you go, okay, now what are we going to do? So you have to keep on putting out albums and keep on
Yeah.
putting out hit songs,
Yeah.
otherwise it's back on the road. And that's why you see all these bands still out there touring. It's because they have to. A lot of these
Yeah.
guys, they're at that age where they'd rather just be sitting at home and playing video games and swimming in the
Yeah.
pool, but they don't have a pool.
Well, it's these days it's more as well of the social media aspect. When they released their albums, say
Yeah,
15, 18 years ago, now nobody
yeah.
has to buy them. You can go onto YouTube and listen to it.
Right, exactly. Those are no mechanical sales. That's right. Nobody's
Yeah.
actually buying a physical product anymore, and that is mechanical
Unless
sales.
it's for nostalgia, like some people like the
Right.
vinyl. But I mean,
Right,
that's
they might want to buy the acetate, the original album, or the CD or something, cassette tapes. I don't think they make those anymore. But the sales are so small, and most people. This is another thing I kind of bring up in the book, and that's that. When you release an album, it's only like usually one or two songs that make it onto radio.
Yeah.
And people don't even hear the brilliant material you have, the other 8 songs or whatever. They don't hear those because you're buying a whole album and you only want to listen to your favorites on that album. Nowadays, you can release a single at a time, which I think
That's
most
what they're
people should
doing.
do. Do not put a whole CD out, because
Yeah.
what you do is you put out one song, let it make its way around for 3 or 4 months, then you release another one,
Yeah.
and let that one, get around for a few months, and you do it that way, and you get a lot more bang for your buck. Releasing the whole CD, it just doesn't get the attention. The other songs fall by the wayside, so it's
Yeah.
not practical way to do it. And look at, you want to really put everything into that one song, and,
Yeah.
get as much use out of it as you possibly can. Then you
Yeah.
go on to the next one, like I said. But there's things like that I've learned as time's progressed, because everything has changed. So I
Yeah.
brought about a lot of those pointers in the book, for the musicians that are reading it, so that they have a little bit more headway, to focus their attention on the things that they really need to focus on.
Yeah, like exactly. Like, I mean, you need 300 billion, hits on Spotify to make
Yeah.
10 grand or something. I mean,
Right.
it's
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
expensive.
Yeah. Well, they're
That's
changing that. They're changing that now. I think I think it was Usher that had, he was talking about, there was, 27 million hits on one of his songs, and he got a check for like $3,200, and you go, wait a minute,
wow.
that's not
There's
right at
something
all.
fishy here. Yeah.
27 million hits, and you get like $3,200. It was something like that. It was just a ridiculous amount. I mean, the percentage that you make off of
Yeah.
one of those songs being played is just like 0.0005. You know what I mean?
Well,
You
there's
go,
probably
what are you?
about 20 zeros before that 5.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
so it's ridiculous. And so they're fighting now for the artists, the ones that actually created the music,
Yeah.
the writers and the persons that recorded their publishing, to get a good share of that, because it became so monopolized with the corporate, pigs in there, that basically
Yeah,
that
exactly.
decided to take everything from you.
The banksters. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. The banksters. Yeah. So.
Well, thanks for taking the, oh wait, we always do this, but let's do this again. Favorite Canadian band or artist except for Rush?
You know,
Anything new that's come over your radar since we chatted last?
um, you mean new as far as bands that I'm listening to? Hey, what is that T-shirt anyway?
Oh,
Oh, Kurt
Dimer. Have you
Kurt
heard of
Dimer.
him?
Yeah, I know that name. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
who's that?
he's doing really well. He gave me the shirt. I went and saw him with Steel Panther and Buck Cherry, but he's good out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else out there though that's catching your eye, maybe in the Florida area that's up and coming that you'd say, or
Um,
any style of
yeah.
music?
There's this really good group called Hair Days, and they're doing a '80s tribute. A friend of mine plays guitar. They're really good. They really do a great job. And then, the Canadian band one. Remember the Headpins?
Yeah, Darby Mills.
Yes, we love that album, their debut album, when we were touring, and we'd play it backstage every single night, the whole album. And we just absolutely loved it. So that's probably my favorite Canadian band ever, was the Headpins.
Yeah, they're
And
they're
also
still,
the guys from Delirium, they're from Vancouver, BC.
yeah,
Delirium and
yeah.
Frontline Assembly,
Okay, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, because I was in Seattle, they
you
were
were just
always
right
playing.
across from
Yeah,
Vancouver, right?
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right
Vancouver,
on.
BC, it was right there. So I saw them play all the time. And they were great, great. And I've listened to Delirium. I love Delirium. And so, they have that one song, Silence, that Sarah McLachlan's singing on. My
Yeah,
God,
yeah,
it's like unbelievable. Sarah McLachlan, she's another Canadian as well.
yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah. But I'm
Right on.
I'm familiar with all the Canadian bands, actually. So
I've asked if about the hundreds of interviews I've done. I think I've stumped about 3 people. I've had to help them. They're like, "Geez, I don't know who's Canadian. Celine Dion's Canadian." Eh? I'm like, "Yeah, well, I don't like Celine
yeah,
Dion."
yeah. And I also love Triumph too.
What? Thank God, thank you for that, because I don't know if you
Yeah.
got because of my channel, but I interviewed Gil 4 days ago, and June 6th is Magic Power, a tribute to Triumph, and they have
Uh-huh.
everybody on the album: Dee Snider, Sebastian Bach, Jeff
Oh,
Keith,
how cool.
Gilbert.
Wow. That's great. That's great.
So everybody go
Ah.
down and look at that interview too. Thanks,
Yeah,
Steve.
exactly. Come on, guys. Get with it.
So what's the opposite of unsubscribe? You know this answer.
What's the question again?
What's the opposite of unsubscribe?
Subscribe. There you go.
Everybody
Yeah,
do as Steve Lynch
yeah,
says and subscribe to the channel for these great
yeah.
interviews. I'll have links below. Make sure you go down and get the book Confessions of a Rock Guitarist by Steve Lynch. And yeah, man, thanks a lot for your time. And I know this.
Absolutely. Maybe once you read the book, maybe I'll come back on and we'll talk a little bit more about it,
I'd
maybe
love
later on in
to.
the summer or something,
Yeah,
That'd be great.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll set something up. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds
It's a
good. Hey,
date.
thanks for having me on, Ernest. I always love coming on your show. So